YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. And I got my linebacker rankings for you guys today for the 2020 NFL Draft. Been going through a lot of position groups, only a few more to go for this NFL Draft. A lot of NFL Draft content on the channel, plenty more to come. And we'll be live April 23rd, day one of the NFL Draft. Breaking it down, instant predictions, reactions, all of it's 50K. That's our subscriber goal by the draft, so please help us get there. Subscribe to both of our channels and follow us on Twitter. Constant updates, always talking NFL every single day. A bunch of polls on there and answering any questions. So those are some must subscribes, must follows. You'll find links that you need down below in the comment section and description, as well as our podcast. We got about 7 episodes out on Apple and Spotify. So it's the Isaiah Simmons show, and the perfect picture for this graphic here. So he's all over the board here. Not a huge fan of this linebacker class, mainly because the depth is kind of lacking. I don't think anyone's going to get any big-time players in day 3, steals or anything like that, unless somebody falls through. It's just there's only a handful of guys, so it's not really a great year to need a big-time linebacker, but there is one big-time linebacker at the top, and as you can see, Isaiah Simmons. The day one impact, best fit as an outside linebacker. I like him in the 4-3. Middle linebacker went with Kenneth Murray in a 3-4 scheme I expect him to go to. For speed, it's Isaiah Simmons. For coverage, it's Isaiah Simmons. We've seen him play slot corner. We see him cover from the linebacker position. We've seen him play safety. Can do those things for a reason. Run game, I like Jordyn Brooks. He's really good filling gaps, really good at sniffing out plays in the backfield, a lot of tackles for loss for that reason. So that's where he's best. Most versatile, Isaiah Simmons. Maybe Josh Uche, who I've graded as a linebacker, could be the alternative there. Pretty good alternative. Most upside, I went with Mississippi State's Willie Gay Jr. because didn't see a whole bunch of them, in his career at Mississippi State. Only played about 5 games this year. Didn't see a whole bunch. And it takes time for these kids to develop. They're kids, and they, and for even the coaches to figure out what their true position is. So limited reps and pretty high level of play for Willie Gay Jr. So he's got some upside to him, combining that with his athleticism and range. Sleeper, Fresno State's Michael Walker. Not getting the buzz at all. It's not that good of a linebacker class, down in the sleeper area, but that's a guy that should be talked about. He was Fresno State's best defensive player, and they used him all over the place because of that. I don't think he's an edge rusher. They used him as an edge rusher quite a bit. He's definitely not an edge rusher. I like him off the ball linebacker. Really good, really instinctive, really good at sniffing out plays, making the play in the backfield. Pretty rangy as well, pretty athletic. Deep sleeper is going to be Wake Forest's Justin Sternad. Another one that's pretty instinctive, high motor guy. You wish there was a little more athleticism, but he can cover as well. So there's some sleepers there. There's guys that I guess I'm viewing as sleepers that I have higher grades on. Then there's some other linebackers that other people will definitely have higher grades on, but I'm just not seeing it. It's a strange, unique linebacker class. Number 1 is Isaiah Simmons from Clemson. Elite grade for me, my number 3 overall player in the draft, right there, right next to Chase Young, who's my number 2. In terms of outside linebacker prospects, he's the best I've ever seen. Why? Because he's involved in so much. You think the most important positions in football, quarterback, maybe tackle, and maybe pass rush, edge rusher, because you know how much of impact they make. All 3 of those things have something to do with the quarterback. They all have that in common, and that's why they're the most important positions. But so you don't think linebacker, but Isaiah Simmons makes the linebacker position that much more important because he's involved in every phase. He's involved in getting after the quarterback when you send him on blitzes. He's involved in the run game. He can shoot gaps. He can get rangy sideline to sideline, make the play, and in coverage. And not when he's just at, a different position. And I do think the mistake people make is saying, well, he played this many snaps at slot corner. He's a slot corner. No, he's a linebacker that can do those things. In just Clemson's defense, he was aligned at linebacker and then ended up being aligned in the slot cornerback position because somebody went in motion or there was an extra receiver running back in the slot out there. So really, he's a linebacker that can do a lot more and just involved in so much of the game. And he's on top of all that, which is rare, which you cannot compare to anybody in the NFL. Like no NFL, I'm not saying right away he's better than every NFL linebacker, but what NFL linebacker has all that, and then on top of that, you can add the athletic, freakish ability. So pretty ridiculous, a unique player that you cannot find a comparison to. Really like Isaiah Simmons, and I think everybody does. If there might be teams out there that wouldn't want to play him. And I think he's an outside linebacker. I think I made that clear. But there's teams that kind of view him as only an outside linebacker that can also play his other positions, but we wouldn't take him that high at these other positions maybe. Those teams, you take a chunk of them. They may not view him as a fit. I think he's more of a 4-3 team, but because he's so versatile, because he's so gifted, I think he can play in a 3-4, but he may fit better as a 4-3. So those teams, some of those 3-4 teams may go somewhere else with a different top talent, but pretty hard one to pass on overall. Number 2 for me is going to be Kenneth Murray, first round grade from Oklahoma. Definitely a fun one to watch here. Freaky athletic and rangy, the ultimate rangy sideline to sideline linebacker, flying all over the field, across the field. And he brings that, the bonus for him is he brings that pass rush. Whether it's blitzing or in Oklahoma's 3-4, they took their inside linebacker, Kenneth Murray, and lined him up as that edge rusher sometimes, and when he was pretty productive. Pretty good moves to combining his athleticism and strength, because he has the strength of an inside linebacker, but he has the length and the athletic ability of an outside linebacker in a 3-4. So you combine that. That's really why he made it work as an edge rusher. So I like him, as an edge rusher more than some of the guys in the draft, which is pretty crazy because he's an inside linebacker. So he kind of has that bonus to him. He can get after the quarterback, whether it's from his original spot or on the outside. And there are some teams that I think he would fit as kind of like a hybrid. You see what the Patriots do with Van Noy and Jamie Collins, what they've done with those guys. Somewhere like that. And then I guess the Patriots tree too. Look at Brian Flores in Miami. You look at Matt Patricia. Those defenses. He would fit perfectly because you kind of get the most out of him there. I know the Saints were looking for a Jamie Collins, trying to bring him in. So maybe teams are starting to bring that type of guy in there. And I think that's where he fits best. So I would love for him to be kind of more of a pass rusher than he was at Oklahoma, because he's good at it and he has a lot of upside to it. Like we kind of talked about, we can use him inside out. I really think he can fit any scheme. Really, the problem with him is the coverage skills. They're definitely a concern. So usually, if a linebacker has, and he's not terrible in coverage, but it's not good. And usually that means, maybe this guy can't be on the field every down, so we're not taking him in the first round. He's most definitely not a first round player. But the talents, the talent level, elsewhere, but then the ability to stay on the field on third down because he's such a factor, getting after the quarterback and kind of staying in teams' heads. What is this guy going to do here on third down? So that's why it's not that much of a concern where do we have to take him off the field? Most definitely not. With his freakish ability and his talents, his skill set, you keep him on the field. So I do like Kenneth Murray as my second linebacker. Third linebacker, and maybe one of the trickiest prospects to judge, I guess, to figure out in this entire class, really, this 2020 draft class. And that's Patrick Queen. And why I say that is, I guess, because the inconsistency to his game. You watch the tape and you remember the national championship game. And it was dominant, absolutely dominance. Looks like a top 10 player, looks like an elite player, elite prospect, a lot of upside. But then you kind of go back and you remember and you watch the other games, and there's even games and moments where you're talking like, I wouldn't even take this guy in the second round. So it's kind of all over the place, and it was tough for me. Borderline, end of the first round, early second for me just because of inconsistencies. He does have upside, though, and he came in LSU as a running back, but so, with the limited playing time, pretty impressive what he's able to do. Very hard-hitting. Very athletic inside linebacker is what I view him. And then we talked about the upside being pretty high. And then he's very solid in coverage. So that's kind of what he's got. That's Kenneth Murray versus Patrick Queen. Kenneth Murray, has more of that pass rush he can add, and the more consistent play, the more proven play. Patrick Queen has the coverage over him. So that's kind of the battle there. I think there's more to Murray's game, and there's more proven play. So that's why I like Murray a little better. But Queen does have the coverage. He does have it. Pretty solid coverage. But we talked about, inconsistencies and a little undersized. I guess, short. He's a little on the shorter side. But yeah, mainly that inconsistent part, but usually when you think a guy's inconsistent, it's like, okay, week 1 really good, week 2 he's not good, week 3, and it really wasn't like that. So I guess he got better as the season went on. We seen him in the most important moment, the national championship game against the Clemson Tigers, and that's was a ridiculous game. So I guess that's a good thing at the same time, but it kind of came out of nowhere. Like, we knew he was a pretty good player on the rise, high motor player, pretty athletic for a linebacker. But that national championship game really came out of nowhere. So maybe people can people are maybe overreacting from one game a little bit, but it was a pretty big game, and he's shown some promise. Number 4 is going to be Josh Uche from Michigan, who I do have as an off-the-ball linebacker, not a pass rusher. So played a little bit of both while he was at Michigan. So you can do a lot with him. You can do a lot of different things because we know he can cover, and we know he has experience trying to get after the quarterback there. I think he's pretty instinctive. He knows what the ball is going a lot. I think he can play outside linebacker in either scheme. So if he goes to a 3-4, outside linebacker, pass rusher. If he goes to a 4-3, outside linebacker, off the ball, he'll be used in blitzes. Problem with that is, I think the 4-3 teams. Most of them will like him, 4-3 at outside linebacker. Some of them may be a little disappointed that he got more of the pass rush snaps this year and wish they got to see more, so they may move him down a little bit just to be safer. But most of them will like him. You take the 3-4 teams. I think most of them won't really like him as much, especially in the second round. I think they'll, as a pass rusher in a 3-4, I think teams would take him, maybe not till the third round though. He's just definitely better as an off-the-ball linebacker. Pretty solid in coverage. He's going to be an excellent blitzer because you look at when he was a pass rusher, when he got his production on the quarterback, it was kind of pulling to the inside, underneath, inside of guards, and getting to the quarterback, and that's where he excelled. He doesn't have anything fancy, anything special on the outside. It's just kind of, let's just run right at the tackle. We'll try to get the quarterback. Sometimes he was just better than the tackle, but he has a ways to go as an edge rusher. So when he's productive going from the inside, that tells me, and he's already shown he can play off the ball linebacker because his coverage skills, tackling ability. So that tells me he's going to be a pretty effective blitzer from the outside linebacker position. So he doesn't have the true position. Maybe some teams will like him better here and there, and that fits them better than some other teams. So maybe that's why he can drop to the third round, maybe, but. Definitely a really good football player for sure for Josh Uche. And number 5 is going to be Willie Gay Jr., definitely a big riser over the last couple months from Mississippi State. Freak athlete for sure, great range, kind of similar to Kenneth Murray in that that part of his game. I think he's a pretty consistent tackler. We didn't really get to see a whole bunch of him this year. Only played 5 games, but from the past as well, kind of adding the games together, pretty consistent tackler, unlike some of this class. A little sloppy tackling moments for the rest of this class. And very solid in coverage, kind of goes into athletic ability. Seems like a natural back there covering. Why pass him? Yeah, his negatives. He does rely on his athletic ability quite a bit, and I think he trusts it a little too much sometimes, even though he is a freak athlete for his size. And it mainly comes into play with angles. He really tries to undercut them, or he thinks he's going to get there, but he really undercut them way too much. That kind of comes up a bit. So that's a little scary. Just kind of clean him up a little bit. And then he's got the upside. He's got the upside here. So Willie Gay Jr. is one to look out for there at the end of the second round. Moving on through 6 through 10, and I guess this is where it gets a little different, maybe a little different compared to other people or guys that I left out is definitely different because other people's linebackers around these parts are definitely different. Jordyn Brooks, number 6. I've calmed down on him a little bit. I was pretty high on him early in this process because the flashy run plays, getting in the backfield, just making these stops, and he'll hit you. Real strong dude. But yeah, the lack of the pass coverage is where he's on the weaker side. And he doesn't have, we talk about Kenneth Murray's a little on the weaker side of the pass coverage, but he has that extra ability to, he's a little more freakier too, athletically, rangier, but he has that bonus to get after the quarterback. Brooks doesn't have a whole bunch of that. So, yeah, the question with him is, will he be on the field every down? But so impressive in the run game, so impressive getting in the backfield, and a pretty strong dude. Akeem Davis-Gaither from Appalachian State, pretty fun one here because they used him. They used him quite a bit everywhere. They used him as an edge rusher at times, and I don't think he's an edge rusher. Doesn't have any pass rush traits to me. He's just kind of went against weaker competition and uses athleticism and strength. To me, he's an outside linebacker in 4-3 that you can kind of get going on the blitz, similar to Uche in a way, because he does have the good coverage skills as well. But yeah, pretty freaky sideline to sideline. So yeah, he's a fun one to watch. It's just going to go against a lot better competition. Jacob Phillips, number 8 from LSU, round 4 grade. Yeah, nothing super flashy with him. He's kind of going to come up, make the tackle, not the best in coverage, kind of just gets the job done there. And then my sleeper, Michael Walker from Fresno State, pretty flashy, and he can do different things too. I guess similar to Akeem Davis-Gaither, they kind of used him as a pass rusher, but he's definitely not a pass rusher. When he was playing linebacker, off-the-ball linebacker, he was more impressive, but he stands out to me on tape. I'm probably way higher on him than anybody else, but he stood out to me on tape, unlike a lot of these linebackers. After these guys, there is some poor play. Then Malik Harrison, who I'm definitely lower on than most people, from Ohio State. Yeah, just kind of the sure tackling linebacker that hits you pretty hard. He can fill some gaps, but the play speed is just too slow for me. And the quickness and the play speed, when you're lacking that, you're going to have to wow me somewhere else with super strength or, just big playability, just instinctive play. And he doesn't really have that. Not saying he's missing that. He just doesn't wow me in that category, and you have to when you're kind of lacking the athletic ability and the quick. It's the play speed is what I keep going back to with him. You look at the Clemson game, big game, obviously. They were just too fast for him. Trevor Lawrence on the ground his play speed was just too much for Malik Harrison, and it's a little concerning because he's got some instincts. He can make the hit. He's a pretty sure tackler, can fill some gaps. It's just you wish the play speed was higher. And you look at the combine, and the combine numbers were actually pretty impressive. Like, all right, a little better than we were expecting, but they still weren't the best numbers, so that kind of tells the story there. Like, we're impressed by numbers that really aren't numbers to get that excited about, and that kind of tells you what you see on the field. So today's NFL, it's just he's maybe about 5-6 years a little too late, it feels like. So he kind of gets bumped down from that, even though he had a pretty good career at Ohio State. After this, like I said, a sleeper for me is Justin Sternad from Wake Forest. I like him. After that, it's brutal. It is brutal. There's some athletic guys that teams will take a chance on, but there's some bad play out there. It's a bad year to need a linebacker. I mean, whoever ends up with some of the top guys, it's going to be fun. But it's a rough one. Somebody will slide. Some of these guys will slide. But so you see here, I have 3 guys on this video that are early day 3 guys. But other than that, day 3 is going to be a disaster for the linebackers. But you go back, you look at Jordyn Brooks, Akeem Davis-Gaither. Maybe one of those guys drops and help day 3 out a little bit. But you're getting to the point where it's going to be late day 3, and maybe a team needs a linebacker for depth, and they usually would take one, but they may just pass because there's definitely going to be other players better, other position players that are just better. A lot of sloppy play here. So it was not thrilled with the depth of this class for the linebackers. If you want to see the full linebacker rankings and the full rankings in general for all the other position groups, you can see them early. You also get some of these graphics on a page for you, and you get a bunch of bonus content as well. You go to our Patreon or YouTube membership link. Both links are in the description of the video, so you can check that out, get everything early plus bonus content. Everybody will get a page of the position rankings with the round grade on them. That will come out the day of the draft, so you just got to wait a little longer. But that's going to do it for this one. We'll be live April 23rd, day 1 of the NFL draft, breaking it down. We're going to have all kinds of videos throughout the draft too, and even after with the grades. So we got you covered. Unlike anybody else, more than a few more videos on the way leading up to the draft. A lot to get to here. Please subscribe, click that like button, comment with your rankings. Check out that Twitter and podcast. Twitter is an absolute must follow. That's where most of our content is, obviously not in video form. So check that out. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.